Before we start 6-1, we need to make sure that you understand perfect squares, perfect cubes, and so on and so forth. So on the back of your notes, I want you to flip it over, and let's make sure. Let's go to a couple of numbers now. You all have your sheet of perfect squares. If you lost it, make sure you come get a new one. But let's make sure you understand your perfect squares. For example, 1 squared is 1. 2 squared is 4. 3 squared is 9. 4 squared is 16. I'm going to go up to 10. 5 squared is 25. 6 squared is 36. 7 squared is 49. 8 squared is 64. 9 squared is 81. 10 squared is 100. Now I do kind of expect you guys to be able to do up to 25. That is that sheet that I gave you guys. And you should also probably know that 30 squared is 900. So make sure your perfect squares are the ones that you should probably know the best. Alright, let's talk about perfect cubes. Perfect cubes. 1 cubed is 1. 2 cubed is 8. 3 cubed, well, 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27. 4 cubed, 4 times 4 is 16, times 4 is 64. 5 cubed, 5 times 5 is 25, times 5 is 125. 6 cubed, 6 times 6 is 36, times 6. Excuse me, 6 times 6 is 36, times 6 is 216. And that list could keep going on. Let's talk about perfect fourths. Okay, we won't go very high on these. 1 to the 4th is 1. 2 to the 4th is 16. 3 to the 4th is 81. And 4 to the 4th is really just like 16 times 16, 256. The last ones I expect you to have memorized are about the fifths, the perfect fifth powers. Well, you know 1 to the 5th is 1. 2 to the 5th is 32. Now 3 to the 5th. You just take 3 to the 4th, you multiply by 3, 243. If you want to carry these lists out, you can. Now let's go to the front and talk about what this chart means here. They're saying pretend you have a number raised to a power, and that equals another number. There's two different things that happen here. Okay? First of all, n could be odd, and that's talking about your exponent. If n is odd, okay, n odd, there's one answer, whether it's positive or negative. So we'll say positive or negative. If n is even, there's a possibility of having two answers. Now the only reason that it's going to be even is because you know that you can have a positive root and a negative root. Alright, so let's go ahead and get some examples of what this chart is saying up here. Pretend that you have x cubed, because that's odd, pretend that you have x cubed equals 8. That's like asking you what times itself 3 times gives you 8. So what you need to do on this problem is think to yourself in the cube root. Well, the cube root of x cubed is x, and the cube root of 8 is a positive 2. Okay, so this is if this side is odd, and it's if this side is positive. That's how you handle this problem. Now let's pretend you had x cubed equals negative 8. Well, this side is odd, the exponent is odd, and this side is negative. The answer would be x equals negative 2, because negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 is negative 8. Okay, so down here I want you to write odd exponents can have negative answers. Now let's talk about the evens. Pretend you had x to the 4th power equaling, well, let me just go to my list and look at a perfect 4th power. Let's look at 81. Let's say we have x to the 4th equaling 81. Well, that is even, and this side is positive. If that side is even and that side is positive, there is an answer. In fact, there are two answers. You can say x equals plus and minus 3, because positive 3 times positive 3 times positive 3 times positive 3 is 81, and negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 is 81. Now let's say that you have an even, like x to the 4th, and then you have a negative, like negative 81. This one is going to be no real solutions, because nothing to the 4th power, if you want to write this down, nothing to the 4th power, and I should say nothing real to the 4th power is negative. Now we did learn about imaginary numbers, but right now we're just talking about real answers. Let's move on to problem 1. Take a look at this chart right here. Anytime I talk about the index, I'm talking about the root. Anytime I'm talking about the radical sign, that's just the check mark part. And anytime I'm talking about the radicand, I'm talking about the thing inside. Problem 1. What are the real cube roots of 0.008, negative 1,000, and 1 over 27? So here's what I like to do. I like to say, well, they're asking for the cube roots, so I would do this. I'm going to say x cubed equals 0.008. Okay, that's one problem. X cubed equals negative 1,000, and x cubed equals 1 over 27. Alright, because these are all odd, okay, because they are all odd, they're going to have one answer. So what cube gives you 0.008? 0.2. Now you might wonder how I did that so quickly. I know the cube root of 8 is 2. This is 3 decimals, so I know that one only has to have 1. Check it out. 0.2 to the 3rd power would be 0.008. Okay, what cube gives you negative 1,000? Well, if you take the cube root, it's like asking yourself what times itself 3 times. Negative 10 times itself 3 times gives you negative 1,000. Okay, and you should know that just because that has 3 zeros. Now ask yourself, what cube gives you 1 over 27? Well, what cube gives you 1? 1. What cube gives you 27? 3. Moving on to part B. What are the real 4th roots of 1, negative 0.0001, and 16 over 81? Okay, these are even, so they will have 2 answers, or they will have no real answers. Alright, we're looking at 4th roots, so we're going to do x to the 4th equals 1. We'll do x to the 4th equals negative 0.0001, and x to the 4th equals 16 over 81. Okay, well, what to the 4th power gives you 1? So you're asking yourself, what to the 4th power is 1 times 1 times 1 times 1? So our answer is x equals 1. Now remember that these can have 2 answers because they're even. So we will write plus 1 4 times gives you a positive 1, and negative 1 4 times. 2 answers. Alright, now see how this side is even and this side is negative? You can automatically say no real answers because there's nothing 4 times that will ever give you a negative. The last one, we got even and positive. Because it's even and positive, there will be 2 answers. Okay, even and positive will always give you 2 answers. What times itself 4 times gives you 16? 2. What times itself 4 times gives you 81? 3. These are our 3 answers. The last thing that I have to make mention about in problem 1b is because this was even and positive, and I said it had 2 answers, that means your 2 answers are the plus and the minus.